Welcome to another episode of the Reverend Josiah Rogers Show. I am Reverend Josiah Rogers. You can call me Reverend Joe. No, call me Reverend Josiah Rogers. Sounds more formal. Now, I have come with a message to you. A message from the Gospel of Thomas, the Phanny Manefesto. I will read you the first chapter in these very holy, very sacred scriptures. Chapter 1. Having an inability in today's world to use terms that are politically incorrect has hindered our society in ways we could never imagine. We are being held against our verbal will to say what is true. Panzocious idiocracy, PI, has consumed today's society. This belief system has many different categories in which has spread its gargantuan amounts of wimptacious behavior permeating through our culture. Politically correctness was wrought by those who were consumed by panzocious idiocracy. This is why anyone who believes this way looks as if they are prone to homosexual and retardistic activities. Created to make people more harmonious, it has actually caused more strife due to the ability this belief has to allow others to push the believer around. Scientific studies show if the person did not believe in such wimptacious behavior, he would have a better grip on his life in social situations. The goal of the powers that become one with PI. The powers that wish us to agree to such behaviors, so that when it comes down to us understanding, when it comes down to us standing for something that makes sense, we will be too wimptacious to overcome the event. This will leave the powers that be to rule the world in its fumbling PI. You may ask, how is it that the powers that be can be consumed by PI but not be affected by it? This is because they are run through rigorous anti-retardism training and PI training, as well as ran through the training to learn PI. This is why our governance makes no sense when providing us with information and making decisions. Political panzocious idiocracy, PPI, is the main use of PI. It has been integrated into other fashions. And a quote by St. Thomas himself, they are weapons of mass retardism. This is very serious, people. How PPI is an enabler for retardism. PPI, including its belief system down to introducing its belief system, down to our classroom, affects our children and guides them toward a path of retardism. This retardistic increasing belief has been integrated into learning so that we can actually cut and change portions of our American and world history, at least for the U.S., as well as many other academic classes, thus guiding our kids toward retardism, in which they will be forced to follow the law of mass continuous stupidity, unless the teaching is corrected or they have developed an IQ higher than that of a large peanut, which in essence is the mindset of our society and the children have been and will be reduced to. Another quote from the great holy St. Thomas: if retardism was sunshine, it would be pouring out of this woman's ass. If she were to bend over, she could light the way for others to follow. St. Thomas. HPI in our society. Hostile panzocious idiocracy has bled its way into our society for ages. The HPI believers are convinced that if they bow down to the whim of hostile behavior, it will go away. This is never true. The hostile may leave you, but it has now gone on to someone else. In some cases, hostile behavior will not even leave you. So we then teach our children to let people run over them by performing such acts as giving them lunch money for bullies to take. Instead of this method would be more practical to teach your kids how to Rochambeau the bully for the money and make sure your kid always goes first. HGPI is the way of the whimtatious. Hostid's Panzocious Idiocracy. HGPI is the reason why violent people find out so much information and are allowed to perform even more violent acts and sometimes retardistic behavior. HGPI is the belief that if you give the captor what he wants, he will spare you. This is not true. If he is capturing you, he is more than likely a selfish asshole. Once the captor has gotten what he wants, you are no longer of use. If you cannot figure out this portion of the gospel yet, please take Logic 101. NPI, the pushover's way of life. Nice Panzocious Idiocracy is not saying or doing what you would so that you do not hurt others' feelings. The usual NPI believer will perform NPI to the point that they are considered a little cully dog, a bitch. This causes another downfall as the world becomes more and more filled with NPI, increasing the ever-looming bitchdom. Imagine a world where everyone is a bitch. If you can, you are probably already one. In conclusion to the chapter of the Phanny Pack Manefesto, the Gospel of Thomas, we have learned of the corruption. PI, learning of such retardistic behavior, can help our future generations become whimtatious members of society. Now we can learn to stand on our own and Rochambeau others for the right to be heard. Note, always, always go first and a Rochambeauing others. If you choose not to, you are suffering from retardism. To better describe Panzocious Idiocracy, also known as PI, different from retardism, it is the act of believing that if you are pansy-like, you will become more accepted. Whimtatious is the end result of PI. Pansy, pansy-affected person, a pansific believer. That was the first chapter of the Gospel of Thomas.